Welcome everybody to Capes and Scowls West. Issue 16 question mark? I am one of your hosts, Nat, and with me today, as always,
Cat.
And Pat.
So today is actually going to run a lot more like one of our point 5 issues. We'll be doing reviews and only reviews.
We have no news except just news about our podcast.
Yeah, exactly. We have news about the podcast. So as we're rolling to the end of the year, we're going to be doing a bunch of specials. So really, we're not going to be a traditional episode until 2018. So look forward to awesome content that we have going forward.
I'm just saying, if you don't want to listen to your family, you can listen to us. I will gladly come into your home and talk to you.
I would much rather listen to me than my family.
Doesn't everybody?
Some of my family talks in Spanish, and I don't know what they're saying. So I guess I'm in agreement with that one.
So, viewers, if your family talks in Spanish and you don't understand them, we're here for you.
All right. So with that said, we're going to jump right into reviews.
After we've offended entire language speaking people.
That's what I do.
Like one of the top 5 highest spoken languages on the planet. Let's get into reviews.
Cool. I'm going to go ahead and just start. I've got Jupiter Jet number 1. Once again, we apologize always for the video quality. We're working on trying to come up with some new stuff.
2018.
Yeah.
Donate.
Yeah.
If you want to give us some money so we can buy better cameras, that's always good too.
We'll take that too.
Well, we're in a weird mood today.
It'll be fun. Seems like a fun show.
This is Jupiter Jet number 1 instead of Action Lab Comics. It's written by Jason Inman and Ashley V. Robinson.
Heard of Action.
Super indie. So the reason that we have this is shout out to Collider Video. Jason Inman and Ashley V. Robinson are both pundits on that channel, and they do comic book related content specifically, and comic book and Star Trek. So they're fellow nerds, and they finally got a comic book together, and it was super fun. I actually really enjoyed this. I know what it is, and this comic knows what it is. It's very much that whole like throwback 1940s or 1920s tech. So there's sci-fi elements. It's super fun. It's fanciful. They said that one of the big inspirations for them was to do content that was like Pixar, that there wasn't a specific audience that you're going for. They want something that anybody can pick off the shelves and read and have fun with. And it's world building. You can see the bones. I think anytime it's a new creative team like that haven't done this, a lot of times there's too much words, a lot of dialogue heavy, expositional to try to get the story going. But I really like this. I really like the art style. It is very reminiscent of Pixar. I shouldn't show people the last page because that's kind of not cool. But yeah, there's like
so pick it up and here's the last page.
Right, exactly. Cool adventuring, awesome, like just good cartoon work. You know, having the single panel with the action flowing through it. This is really solid. This is a really great debut, and it's an awesome.
She's changing alleys like Superman.
She's changing in an alley like Superman.
Really?
Yeah, but super fun. I recommend picking this up. If nothing else, support people who love comics and are making them. You know, it's good stuff.
Nice. Well, that's a solid review to start us out. All right, what do you have for us, Kat?
It made me sad. I didn't finish it because I just got so bored. I have the DC Holiday Special with 2017. I was hoping for just like, it says 11 festive fables, which in the back of my mind, I'm like, shouldn't it be 12? We're just going to start there. I'm already going to do it. Shouldn't it be 12? The other part of it is I was hoping for...
Yeah. And a part.
I actually got disappointed. So, from the cover, I'm like, oh, hopefully it'll be like a collection of cute little stories, and that would be great. No. Like, the first, 2 or 3. The first one, the second one is...
Batman being sad because nobody's with him on Christmas.
No! You know what's worse? Is the first one is Superman sitting in a bar drinking a club soda being sad.
No. Why do you go to a bar for a club soda?
I feel like Superman should give up the whole club soda. He can't get drunk, so he might as well just order the beer to save face.
Yeah, right?
Like, to make it look like he's drinking a beer. Or an eggnog. I mean, keep it classy.
And then the second one is a Batman one.
I feel like he's more of a whiskey drinker.
That's true. I could say
on the
that.
rocks.
You know what? Bourbon. He's a country boy.
Oh, yeah. No, that is true. Uh-huh. Arnold Palmer's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are really good.
DC
We are
too.
going way off the rails. We're in a really good mood today, though, I think. So.
But the second one was a Batman story about a little boy who was cold, and then some people didn't let them in their house, and the grandma died. And I'm like, what is this? I wanted to smile this tonight. Jesus.
This is a very DC depressing Christmas.
Yeah.
DC depressing Christmas.
Oh, zing! I didn't catch that one.
And then I
actually.
got to this one, and you see a soldier dead, and I'm like, I'm done. Like, I just wanted to be freaking happy. The cover says happy, people. It says, you're going to enjoy this.
Technically,
No.
it does not say
Well,
happy, just for the viewers.
It does
at
say
home.
fable, which kind of in the
It says
implication that's like
festive fables.
And
so
fables
that
have
does
a-
have
Festive-
an
I mean,
implication,
yeah.
but
I
But
just.
they're
fables.
not contractually
Right.
obligated to give you happy fables. We're talking like
Well,
OG German like
exactly.
fairy tales.
Fables are supposed to teach you something.
I mean,
so.
it was. I'm sad. The Halloween one was awesome, and I was hoping that the Christmas one would be more like cheery. And the world already sucks. I don't need to know more about how the world sucks at Christmas too. Okay. All right, I'm done now. Probably.
What do you have, Patrick?
Okay, so I think I'll start off with this is Spider-Man 235. As in Miles Morales Spider-Man,
Who?
just to make
Sorry,
that more
Kinda looks
clear.
creepy.
Brian Michael Bendis, writer, Oscar Bazaldua. Sorry about that, Oscar. So I've been reading this since #1, and I have all the like compilations and stuff. And Spider-Man's one of my favorite. I don't typically like to just like it as a thing in general because like it's kind of my like superhero sort of guilty pleasure. Like he just goes out and punches people, and then that's the whole comic.
Oh my God, it's Superman.
But yeah, basically, and I typically don't like stuff like that. But this, it seems like Brian Michael Bendis is really trying to go out on a bang, creatively. Like this is not, it's not just like a fizzle. Like this is how the world ends, not with a whimper, but with a bang.
Oh, nice.
And so right now we have a group of 6 of the craziest villains about to steal, led by Miles Morales' uncle Aaron Davis
Okay.
as the Iron Spider, going to steal a SHIELD helicarrier.
That's a big
Since-
undertaking.
Since SHIELD is no longer
Yeah,
existing, apparently, since I guess whatever that last big Marvel event that I don't want to mention by name was, and SHIELD no longer exists, so it's basically just like sitting in a warehouse and they're gonna steal it. Meanwhile, Miles is going out in his just hoodie and jeans as Spider-Man because he just wants something new. He doesn't want to be in Spider-Man's shadow anymore, basically. And so he's
Interesting.
just trying out something new. Also developed some weird, basically like web power.
What?
Yeah. He like, cause he has his like, I don't know, he's just evolving both like as a person and as a superhero towards the end, cause he lost his web shooters a few issues back. And so he was just going out doing his thing, and now he has like web thing, like
What?
essence of web that comes out of his finger. I don't know. It's really cool. And then we get some mommy daughter issues between the bombshells. It's a very dense issue actually, like as far as like what is actually going on, and it's still fun. It's a fun read still.
Huh.
Like it's a good. There's villains and there's heroes and then fighting, but like also a lot of just like personal development things. It's a
Interesting.
very very good issue. So Spider-Man 235, Brian Michael Bendis. This I was like before I was like, oh yeah, you need a fresh breath of air to like do this. But now I'm kind of like, do you know?
Do
Kinda
you really?
sad now that he's going.
Anyway,
Cool.
so
That sounds pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
the idea of Miles evolving to be even further different from Peter is,
Yeah.
I think it's smart. You can have the two characters existing in the same universe, but make them different. Make them different for people to actually read both books.
Yeah, you don't need 20 Spider-Men.
No.
You can have Peter Parker, and you can have Miles
Yeah.
Morales, and you can have Ben Riley. They don't all have to be named Spider-Man.
No. Yeah. What do we? Come up with a cool identity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we got a couple reviews coming up that Kat and I share.
I think we share the rest of them, honestly.
We do share the rest of them.
Yeah.
Do you want to hit the two at the same time? Then we'll just bounce back and forth and
We
talk
can
about it.
totally do that.
All right, so we're going to start with Witchblade numero uno from Image Comics, written by Caitlin Kittredge with art by Roberta Ingranata. Beautiful name. So the big draw on this is that Witchblade was a boobs and bullets kind of character.
Oh my god, that's right.
That's exactly what it was. She had a gauntlet. Sarah Pazzini had a gauntlet that transformed over her body and ripped all of her clothes off, and she had an armored, like ancient.
Like a Sailor Moon transformation.
Yeah,
sequence.
It's a very
exactly.
hoary transformation sequence.
But and it launched a lot of careers, and it was actually a really well loved comic book. But it was definitely part of that like late '90s milieu of that's how you make a
This
female
just made this
character.
1,000 times better. I forgot.
The peak of fan service.
Right. This is a reimagining by two female creators, and
It's
I think that's
very-
really important.
Yeah.
So you have the lead character. Oh my gosh, and her name escapes me. I actually don't say it very often.
I don't think
It's
they.
Alex.
You're Alex Underwood.
And she comes into possession of a magical bracelet, and she is a counselor for victims in the lawyer setting. So as a case
She's
is happening,
she's like protective services.
yes. So her job is to kind of
Protect women from their abusers
yeah.
and stuff like that.
And the implication is not necessarily just women, but in these cases that are like that, she's the
like
one who's-
abusive cases.
Yeah, she's the one who to be able to console, to discuss, make sure that if protection of the actual official kind needs to be done, that she organizes that. And she falls into the lap of this Witchblade after being killed? ?
I don't really actually know what happens to her. Like they keep saying that she's like you don't remember feeling alive, and I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah, there's a
You
lot.
know,
Of,
it's the one thing that it got convoluted for me. I'm like, wait, so did she already die, or is she gonna die now?
they do a lot of. I actually really enjoyed the storytelling, but I feel like this is going to take multiple reads to really put it into context. It
Probably.
watched like a Tarantino movie, like where it was like things occurred out of order, but you piece it together as it's
Saying
happening.
that's probably why I had such a hard time because if something's not linear, I literally have to create a spreadsheet to follow it. It's really bad.
And it's quite beautiful, and their whole reimagining of the Witchblade itself is really interesting.
Honestly, the one part in it that I liked, and I forgot that that's what the Witchblade was, is it was a boobs and bullet kind of character, and I totally spaced that. It was when the gauntlet itself starts talking to her, and it starts doing famous women in history.
Yes, so it's showing like the
I don't know who the first one is.
powerful women. I
I'm
don't.
pretty sure the second one is
Joan
Joan
of
of
Arc.
Arc.
That might be the only named one, but they give you the hints that warrior women in the past were assisted by the Witchblade,
Yeah.
and it's like this, and it's very subtle. They've simplified it into being literally just this sentient thing that feeds off of the blood of who its host is. And there's a lot to it. This is definitely the beginning of some world building, and I really dug it. I thought this was a nice debut. I think the visual elements are really interesting. The crying blood for like making her actually look like a witch, and not like the entity itself being the core element, but who it bonds to. Very like Venom-esque, but it's just written really well. And if it stays street level like this with the elements of magic, this could be a really special book.
Yeah, just flipping through it, it's just very cool looking. Like I wasn't actually reading any of the story, just looking at it, and like I usually try to pick up Image number ones. I don't know how this one escaped me, but I'm
Yeah,
sold.
I don't either, because it's like I wasn't looking at what I wrote last night. I was like, my thing was that it felt short to me, and that's where I was kind of like, Okay, I guess they need more, but
What? 25 pages is short.
You know what? I think it's its pace. It moves very briskly.
that's
Like,
probably what
runs
it was.
through
And
the-
I usually, I mean, I'm not saying you need to go like ridiculously slow, but sometimes when you do start outs, at least for me, you have to go a little bit slower because I mean, the ending part, I was like, oh, that happened? I'm shocked that she did that. Like, I'm like, it's not as climactic as they try to make it to be, so that kind of made me a little sad, but I'm like, okay. I mean, it's the first
See,
issue, it's fine, whatever.
I reversed that. For me, I like the first issues to kind of like be a run and gun and go straight for it
Mm-hmm.
because I as a collector have failed in my past at collecting things. I had Ultimate Spider-Man in my hand off of the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimate Spider-Man #1, and I didn't buy it because I flipped through the issue and I was like, Spider-Man's not even in this. So I need to have that hook in the #1s. Like I want to know where the story is going to go.
I mostly just, honestly, I'm sitting at this point where it's like, so she died?
That is the question. It's like it's really unclear whether or not like the death is the catalyst. Like she had to
Mhm.
die first.
I just
But
want to
it's-
know, like, at this point, I'm like, how did you die? And you don't remember it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well,
So I'm like sitting in this
well,
hazy fog of,
and they're,
what?
they're kicking back to like her formal life as like a news journalist and like in Afghanistan.
That's
There's
what
some really cool
it's what
stuff
it
in
looked
this
like
book.
and that's the other thing too, is it had a lot of imagery, and it looks like somebody that she also knew died as well in that time frame. And
Right.
so honestly, it sounds like it's in being in that third world element. It makes sense that would be where she would acquire it, because Mystic Relic.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. So
Yeah.
finding it.
So kind of just offhand, that kind of makes a little bit more sense. But
Cool.
I mean, yeah, I think the brisk pace. I think the brisk pace made it harder for me because the storyline wasn't very linear, so I had a harder time. I was like, okay, wait, now we're shit. So it was kind of one of those of I have to. It'll be one of those ones I have to take slower, otherwise I'll be lost, and I might have to be a nerd and make a spreadsheet.
Nothing wrong with that. You gotta
Yeah.
piece it together.
You're right.
I think we're gonna run through Klaus if you want, or Claus if you want to take the lead, and then you can.
Okay.
hop in.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because we all know I love Christmas. I did never mention that before.
The most wonderful time of the year.
Most depressing time in DC Comics.
year.
Yeah, freaking seriously. So, Klaus and the Crisis in Xmasville was awesome! I'm just saying Dan Mora is, yes. Just yes, and yes. Honestly, even just the comic book itself. Like, how much? I forgot how much this even was.
I have
$7.99.
I have no idea what is happening in this.
It's okay, most of us didn't either, and I was like, alright, well, there's
So-
like a wolf thing.
So
and
this is written by Grant Morrison, so that's why we don't know what's going on.
Yep.
And it's art by Dan Mora. This is Claus. The first hardcover was one miniseries that was done, I think, 2 years ago, and it kind of has this idea of.
That's kind of why I missed out on stuff.
I don't think that they connect other than the fact that it's the
No.
character of Claus.
No, they definitely don't, but I feel like there were some things in there I'm like, what?
Yeah, this gets deep into like the different mythologies of Santa Claus.
That is the
and
one
different
thing I will
cultures.
say. If you know more about Christmas than me, which is completely possible, totally possible. If you understand the different Santas from the different cultures, you probably appreciate it more.
Fun fact: the original Saint Nicholas was actually Turkish.
I wasn't surprised.
And I'm like, now I need to go into the book. I'm like, hold on.
The Santa Claus as we know him was actually a Coca-Cola advertisement from the
That's
50s.
why I knew that.
Hey, that's a main theme in this entire book.
Really?
That's literally why. That's the one thing I did know is Santa was a 1950s from Coca-Cola. And that's the thing is it's what is it? It's
Pola-Cola.
Pola.
Pola-Cola.
Happiness is Pola-Cola, and it's a Santa Claus, and there's like a bunch of people in the town
Uh-huh.
walking around as these zombie Santa Clauses.
They also invented polar bears for
Oh,
advertising.
no, yeah, excellent.
I knew it.
I was wondering how they got out, man. So, and that's the one thing is like I feel like if I understood Christmas and other cultures, I probably would have enjoyed this even more. But
And can Dan Mora just get on a Batman book already? I mean, like seriously, I know you guys can't see that very well.
I mean,
I'm gonna
I can
hold it
see
as
and I
close
can
as I
promise
can,
you, it's pretty
but
grand.
seriously.
Yeah, that's basically Batman.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real here.
So the main like through line of this is that the founders of Xmasville are trying to get rid of Claus so they can basically own the image of Christmas. And then on top of that, the youngest member of this family wants to relaunch Cola Cola worldwide. And so what they want to do is vilify Santa and then have their new working man Santa Claus. And this is set in 1985, and it has a lot of like the 1980s like I'm a businessman and I'm doing what's right for you kind of culture.
He's
And
totally correct. Like,
it
there's
is-
this guy. He even has the giant brick cell phone. Like,
Yeah, and he has like
first,
a blue suit with a bow tie.
Yeah.
Though. Like it's brilliant.
and you like first run into him when he's talking on the phone too, like on his giant cell phone. It's insane.
It's amazing. And then they like the actual true antagonist of the story though is an alternate Santa Claus from the dark dimension that has traveled and crash landed on Earth
He's-
and feeds off of the imagination of children.
yeah, this shit is twisted, man.
This is
And he looks like a vampire. All right.
he looks it's this is amazing and like absolutely insane and
And then you get to see. I'm pretty sure
that's
that
the Santa they want.
I'm pretty
Oh,
sure
yeah.
that Klaus is supposed to be the American Santa Claus.
Yeah, I guess
I
like
think he's supposed to be the American one, and I'm pretty sure there's another. You run it, and then you find out that there's more Santa Clauses, but not Santa Clauses.
yeah. What is it? He says like is he
He's like-
Father
he's-
Christmas or is that
Something around it, something like that.
or
It's not
like
Father
Frost or
Christmas, something like that.
It
It's
sounds like they need to drop some like not like
It's like the Tumbler from Batman, and that's like one of the sleighs. 'Cause
yeah.
it's like this is science fiction and fantasy and mythology. This is just nuts.
so this is the thing that keyed me off. That if I understood Santa and other cultures, I probably would have loved this even more. But you find out that there's apparently more Santas, and one of them is like he looks like the actual Santa. He's got the white beard, except he's ripped.
Grandfather
he's-
Frost.
And he's got like a Thor hammer.
Oh shit! I missed that in the art. I pour over this and I missed an element of the art. Go figure on that.
My area of influence extends only as far as my name does. Most people outside of
Okay,
Russia
Santa.
have never even heard of me. And then there's a woman who I'm pretty sure I don't even know. Like, I don't even know who this chick is, but I'm like, wait, who are you?
I think she's Jack Frost.
Yeah, you're probably right on that one.
Yeah. So this is
It
batshit
is Father
insane.
Frost. Fathers Frost and Christmas went to fight lunar civil war. What is going on in this? This thing's awesome.
Sorry, I've kind of been wanting to make this joke since
Okay.
like you mentioned that there were multiple Santas,
Mhm.
but it sounds like they need to trademark Santa's identity with a better clause.
My insides hurt.
Wah, wah, wah. On that note, seriously though,
My
Sorry.
insides are literally starting to bleed.
if you want something absolutely irreverent and
It kind of
Fine.
bad shit.
yeah, and honestly, this was kind of like the positive Christmas vibe, you know?
It
like,
was.
the whole idea of Santa Claus being like a superhero
He's not
really
even. I don't even know-
resonates.
He's just like I don't even know if we
He's
call
like
him
a wa-
He's like a wandering
Okay,
warrior.
wait a minute. You can call him with a magical flare gun.
Alright.
That's
right.
pretty superhero.
Yeah, you're right. I
Magical
forgot about it.
flare gun.
I forgot about that.
Yep.
That's how he's right. That's how he's called. It's
Oh,
insane.
my sweet.
I'm
Lord
Grant Morrison.
Jesus.
I love you like so much. You've written some of my favorite stories.
More nonsense. I need more nonsense.
And then Patrick, you wanna finish up?
Okay, so before we get into our final group review, I have the Jetsons #2, which is, if I can find the title page, written by Jimmy Palmiotti. Sorry, Jimmy.
Jimmy Palmiotti.
Palmiotti. I love your writing. You're bad at pronunciation. And
Me
art
too.
by Pierre Brito.
That one I
And-
can't help you with.
So.
Yes.
So this is since issue #1, and we're only in issue #2. this is crazy. I was really sad to find out that it was only a 6-issue series.
I'm
But-
kind of wondering if it'll end up turning into 12, kind of like the way that Scooby-Doo Apocalypse kind
I
of took
don't-
a hit off. Or
I don't think so,
No?
because in issue number 1, we're introduced to the fact that there is a meteor that is
The
going
Earth
to
is dying.
destroy Earth. The Earth is dying, and in issue number 2, we also get another world-ending phenomenon that is introduced into
need this in my life.
very
Did you not pick
quickly
this up?
into it.
I didn't.
What's wrong with you?
I
I
had-
have it.
I had 10 comics on my pull list this week.
All
I
right,
needed
you
to
might
cut
watch
something
me
somewhere.
on camera walk out of this room because I had 15.
So,
Fair enough. I picked up 2 extra ones.
so we
me
get
too.
So we also get a little bit more into George Jetson's workplace environment, which is very dangerous. He almost dies from electrocution in trying to fix something. His employee code number, by the way, is 1962 3 CBS, which is the air date,
That's what I
the
thought.
number of seasons, and then one of the channels that it ran on in its original run, respectively. 1962 premiere date, 3 seasons, CBS, one of the original channels.
It's only 3 seasons. I really have a hard time believing that.
There
Yeah.
were like 28 episodes.
Yeah,
seasons,
Ah,
you know,
okay,
like-
back then they like ran a season for like the whole year.
Yeah.
This is just, and we get like spacely, like at one point, like all the buildings, like gravity stabilizers destabilize, and they're like
Oh,
falling and
that's really-
tilting, and people are
Wow.
going crazy. And Mr. Sprocket is like, Jetson, you need to get in there to repair it because I'm losing money. And I just hear like the original voice in it.
The little guy.
Yeah, basically.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
oh my gosh, we get. It's just. It's
I
just
love these
so
comics
well-
because they're just so much like nostalgia. It's like Scooby-Doo Apocalypse, the things that you see because they hide them fairly well, but if you knew it and you watched it and you know about it, you find them and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's just so well written that like it. There's just so much going on. I could honestly talk about just this one issue for an entire 30-minute episode.
Really?
Really, there is, and I don't even want to like bring up.
do. Right?
I don't even want to bring up like other elements of this. Just so good.
So it's keeping up with what the
Oh
first
my
one
gosh.
promised.
it is blowing itself away.
Really?
Like I
Wow.
love issue number 1 and issue number 2. I'm reading through it, and there is so much going on every panel, and it's not forced at all. It's so natural, so flowing, so apocalyptic that oh my gosh. Okay, I could just say oh my gosh for like 30 minutes about this,
And that would be enough.
and that would be my whole review. Just oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And then okay, so I'm just gonna end it on that before I like carry myself away.
Nice.
So
Well,
all right, so I think sort of as our last review, we're going to get into Batman White Knight issue number 3.
which I literally read 20 minutes ago.
So Kat is going to have a very fresh take on this.
Yeah.
Written by Sean Murphy with art by Matt Hollingsworth.
No.
Written by Sean Murphy with art by Sean Murphy.
Oh,
and
Sean Murphy.
That's
Oh,
right.
sorry.
I
I was
was
like, I feel like we talked
Colored,
about this.
colors by Matt Hollingsworth.
Sorry about that, Sean Murphy. Credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Tis your baby.
I get 2 issues of this. I get the variant and the regular one because they're awesome.
Variant.
The variant is freaking sweet. I
And
actually
regular.
I love the variant.
So, well, I'm going to lead off with spoilers. If you haven't been reading this book, shame on you. And
I'm sad.
There's 2 Harley Quinns. There's Marion Drews and there's Harleen Quinzel. And they're different characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so popular and well liked. They're talking about putting it in the regular DC, and I'm just so happy about it.
Marion Drews being the booty shorts and baseball bat,
Yeah.
Harley Quinn, whereas Harley Quinzel
Quinzel
is
is
the
the more
traditional
respectable.
tights and like
Harley,
jester hat.
Harleen Quinzel is the psychiatrist in a jester suit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's really the best way to say that. And then, yeah, the other one is the backwards feminism, right?
Yeah.
As Harleen states in the previous issue. So
Right.
this is definitely, it's more of the degradation of Batman that happens in this, that he's reckless at this point, and he's getting into his own head and truly believing that even though Joker is quote unquote cured, that it's still in there and that he's still motivating all of the violent events that are happening in Gotham. And we're also seeing that Jim Gordon is pretty blindly devoted to Batman's cause.
That was for me one of the most interesting things about this issue is not only like the degradation of Batman as a character, but of Gordon following Batman to degradation. Like which like just parallel like each of their like storylines like parallels each other basically where Jim Gordon is like, no, I can't do my traditional like my actual police work. I need to follow Batman as he destroys the city.
Yeah.
So as they take down that deep note, I'm just gonna go on the not deep note of Harleen Quinzel's a freaking badass.
She's a super badass.
She literally tells Joker, Napier, hold my purse.
Yeah.
And then proceeds to beat the shit out of people.
Yeah.
Come on!
Yeah. She's and it's really funny because Jack, now not
Hold
being
my
Joker, is very much like he's very mousy. Like he's very
Mhm.
quiet. He's brilliant.
Yes.
He's kept all of the intelligence that he had.
Well, and that's the one thing
as
I can
Joker.
appreciate too is Harleen Quinzel is actually like Harley Quinn always came off as a giant ditz to me,
Right.
but Harleen Quinzel is so intelligent,
As a
so
psychiatrist.
smart. And she's like she's not on his level, but she's close to him.
Yeah.
And that's the best part to this.
Well,
is
I
you
think
see him bouncing back with each other.
She can understand his motivations, and she
Mhm.
always did. And I
Yeah.
think that's what she found strangely attractive and fell into that hole.
Mhm.
But it never gets explored more that like what she is. But yeah, this issue then centers around a specific event where like the cops are trying to hold back all of the supervillains, and
Because they came together. I'm sorry, I've been listening to the song all day.
they came together because they're under like a weird version of the Hatter mind control. But Batman blindly goes running into a building thinking that the villains aren't going to follow, and
They do.
they do, and he gets wrecked. Like blindly goes in there, nearly dead, obviously refuses hospital treatment, and goes back to the cave, where normally Alfred would patch him up. But as we know in the story, Alfred's basically on his deathbed.
Yeah.
He's being treated by chemicals that Freeze is working with Batman on, trying to figure out what's going on. And in another absolute heart-wrenching moment, Bruce passes out, nearing death. Alfred wakes up and connects his life support system to Bruce Wayne and dies, saving his son as he.
Sitting in
Also-
his chair.
Also, one of my
Sure.
favorite parts of this, we learn the actual price of Batman's vigilantism.
Oh
which
yeah,
costs the city of Gotham $3 billion
It is billion, I
a
remember.
year.
and it's disguised as part of like the national or the
The natural
natural disaster.
relief plan.
Yep.
And I think that's one of my favorite parts is when they're standing at a podium and Harleen is holding like this little child and they're like, "This is Michelle. She's been in the hospital for a year after, after the roof collapsed in her mom's apartment. It was one of dozens roofs Batman drove across that evening while chasing Firefly, who ended up escaping."
Yeah.
Like, is that worth what Batman is doing to like put a little child like in the hospital?
It makes these awesome questions while not ignoring the mythology of the character.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have a moment like that that certainly says, if Batman killed, we would be safer.
Yeah,
You know, like that's core concept. But if Batman killed, is he a hero?
yeah.
But
Because
what
by
he's doing
his own
now,
because by his own morality he doesn't kill.
right? And what he's
But
doing,
if he does kill, then is he a moral person?
right? And but the thing is, him not killing is hurting people.
Mm.
Like he's not stopping crime.
Yeah,
because
that is true.
He's putting people, super criminals, in jail, and they're escaping. And at the same time, we see a moment where Alfred dies. The character that has been the father figure in all of Batman's history is dead. and we see the total breakdown of Bruce Wayne.
The thing is like his sidekicks even say his moral compass is now gone.
Mhm.
Like he's basically a loose cannon is essentially what they're saying, and they're not even. And honestly, Dick Grayson is a lot more mousy in this one, and Barbara Gordon is not.
Well, Dick is degrading into Bruce,
Mm-hmm.
and that is like his fault is that he's becoming not the Batman that we knew him as when Dick Grayson was Batman, but Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Which the thing that's always been interesting about the idea of a Dick Grayson Batman is that he's a light-hearted Batman. But this is a guy who's really going, I don't want to turn into what I'm turning into. And then they drop a fucking bomb on us and say that Jason Todd was the original Robin.
It was a literal auto. I mean, they were sitting here while I was reading. It was a what?
Yeah, and that's the first time they've really like changed the mythology in this story.
But at the same time, it's an important change because now all of a sudden I feel like it shifts from. I don't know a whole lot about Jason Todd. I do know that him and Batman didn't get along though.
They didn't because Jason Todd was reckless.
Well, yeah, he was a loose cannon essentially, and now I'm assuming that there was always some sort of jealousy with him and Nightwing, and
yes, because he wanted to be Robin, so he was always pushy off that. But that relationship goes away because
the conversation that I just stepped back.
Well, now it's reversed,
Yeah.
And now the jealousy is coming from Dick Grayson because he's like he always loved him like a son.
Yeah.
He never really.
Well,
and the thing is he even and honestly, from my understanding too, is even when Dick Grayson was Robin, him and Bruce were more like brothers than a father-son relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And Alfred was his father figure as well. And so he even says in this comic, Bruce was never my dad.
Yeah.
Alfred was.
Yeah, so they retain that relationship. What this also means is it gives us a time frame for the way that this universe is unfolded. If Bruce had Jason Todd as a mentor, he was mentoring Jason Todd, and then he went on. Jason Todd was killed because we don't actually know what happened there.
I think they say the same thing where it's the Joker killed him.
Right, but it's always in quotes because we don't know what actually happened.
Yeah.
There. And then after that, people don't realize we're actually filming. After that, he then takes on another ward. So even after a Robin died, he made the choice to take on Dick Grayson. So there's
because Tim Drake just came in and said you're doing this because I know.
Tim Drake's character is you need an element of light, and that's what I will be. So there, this is a deep well to fall in. I think what we're saying is that you should probably be reading.
I would also like to point out that the other Harley makes an appearance.
Oh yeah,
the other Harley Quinn shows back up
and has a new identity entirely.
Yep.
And I would also like to point out that I love Harleen Quinzel's mouth in this, by the way. Like
what do you mean?
Like just the way it's drawn, like her smile.
Oh, she always has like kind of a cracked smile.
Like look at
She's
that
smart.
panel right
Yeah.
there. Like she has like.
But I'm gonna steal your book for a second because it's not on this cover. Never mind. Don't worry. I'm lying to you.
Yeah. So Sean Murphy, great illustration just of a mouth.
Yeah.
Like
so one of the things he's designed too is so Harley has the tri-diamond design. Neo Joker's design is 4 diamonds, and then the top one is Joker's acid flower. So like that level of design is going into this. Like each character has their identity. Now let's talk about like the redesigning of all of the supervillains. His Mad Hatter is absolutely demented and terrifying looking as this small like dwarf evil creature, and then the brain of Clayface and the Day of the Dead wrestler version of Bane.
Yeah, luchador Bane.
Yes,
basically.
It's amazing. But we should probably wrap up, right?
Yeah.
Final thoughts. Everybody reading Batman White Knight?
You better be reading it. This is my suggestion. Read it, even if you don't know about Batman.
Well, we've got lots of awesome content coming up. So yeah.
With that, bye.
Yeah, join us.